Hey everyone, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and today my guest is Dr. Philip Agrios. He's the founder and CEO of Transcend Now, and he's a seasoned self-sabotage specialist. He's a business consultant and international speaker who has developed the transformative TNow Method to help individuals and businesses overcome their sabotaging methods and traits that they have. And quite importantly for our community, the veteran and military community, this method has been shown to significantly help veterans with PTSD. So we definitely want to get into this, talk about it a little bit more. But before we do, Dr. Agrios, welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you here.
Scott, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah, me too. When we first started talking about this, I started thinking about all the guests that I've had on the show. This is episode 460 or something like that. So I've had quite a few guests on the show, shared quite a few stories about their journey from, the military into civilian life and the things that they've dealt with and everything that they've seen, and a lot of times self-sabotage is a thing that is a common occurrence that you hear about with people. So for folks maybe who aren't familiar with what we're talking about here, can you talk to us a little bit about this concept of self-sabotaging and how it prevents people from following a successful path in their life?
Yes. So, with my discovery and my research over the last 30 years, I mainly see self-sabotage as a self-protection. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not an idiot or a horrible person, all this other stuff. You're just in protection. And what we found is that there's only two things we do as humans: protect and we grow. We contract, we expand, we give and take. We're vibrational beings. And during my I used to be a chiropractor, board certified sports medicine doc, and a functional medicine doctor. I used to focus on thyroid and autoimmune disease. And during my uh, practice, I was able to discover a trait, a hidden trait that you're born with that you can't get rid of, that we call the inborn sabotage trait. It doesn't undermine you. It actually protects you from the very success that you seek, because that success subconsciously is more painful to achieve and sustain. So we go back doing what we're doing. So when I first found this, I was like, this is too simple. There's no way. So I went on to try to disprove it. And over 30 years, researching thousands and thousands of people, not only was I able to prove it, found a way to switch it off instantly. And it works 100% of the time. So during the process, realizing that it's really a self-protection. When I realized that to not only myself and my patients, my clients, it was a game changer, that there was no more guilt. There was no more thinking you're a loser, all the other 100 words we say to ourselves. You're just in protection.
That's interesting because it's one of those things, like you said, you're born with it, but we're born with lots of things, and we manage, we adapt, we deal with the cards that we've been dealt. But sometimes those cards are difficult, and those things that we are dealt are not real easy to deal with. And so, yeah, figuring out how to switch that off and manage that in a way that allows you to move past self-sabotage, that issue that you might be having, those limited beliefs, those I'm a loser, I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm that. That's got to be a game changer. And I'm sure some of the listeners right now are sitting there thinking to themselves, okay, well, enough with this babble here. Tell me more. How do I get there? So I mentioned, I think in the intro, that the TNow method that you have, and so how does this method work? How does it help people? Are there things that people can do to get past this, on their own, or is it something that they need assistance with?
So basically the T in the TNow means transcend. And what we found was that when you use this method, you can immediately transcend any adversity, no matter how small or big. Okay. And one of the things we found was that yes, you are born with it. And the reason why is because I can see children at 2, 3 with these type of situations and this personality trait. And when they go into their own protective trait, I can, because I have grandchildren, patients have, kids. And so we're able to study them in that aspect of it and helping parents. Now they understood this child's sequence, knowing exactly why they're doing what they're doing. And then they can actually use subconscious words that would actually connect with that child and help them shift. We've seen parent-child relationship change tremendously. So that's why by working on that end of it, I knew that it was something to was born with. And when people go, well, what are all the traumas and all the stuff that I came with? And I basically say is that those allow you to find your saboteur and find what we call the antidote to move forward. So basically what happens is when you have a personal professional expansion, right? When you hit that wall and you're uncomfortable, the saboteur kicks in to protect you. So imagine when you hit that wall, as you start to contract, imagine there's only one trait to focus on. And that's the reason it's contracting. And then by using what we call the antidote, the exact opposite, you immediately have to go into growth 100%. So now you're doing this compared to doing this. So during the process, I was able to discover that there's only 3 traits that make up who we are. We call them the director trait, the communicator, and the supplier trait. Because that's all we do as humans. We communicate, we direct, and we supply. That's it. Once I realized that, I was able to understand that there was what we call the protective sequence. It's a sequence that's made up of 3 parts of who we are. So it's what we call the dominant trait, which is our superpower. It's really why we're here on Earth. Then we have a bridge called the mediator trait, and then the saboteur. So it's like a seesaw aspect. The saboteur is another word for the inborn sabotaging trait. And what we found is that when we put these 3 traits that we all have, placed them here, found out there's only 6 sequences of behavior, so there's only 6 people in the world. And then, so if you had a significant other, I can ask you a couple of questions, never meet that person, and tell you everything about them.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you how you two interact, where the conflict was, or how and why that relationship works so well. Because we've gotten down to a point of that science where how each sequence work with each other, right? So imagine knowing your child, right, or your spouse, or your business partner, or whomever, knowing their sequence. Now you can start understanding them, and we find out now people have compassion to them because they understand what they're doing compared to judgment. So those 3 traits, once you understand that, you'll understand why, as a veteran, why those situations, why you're not having, why those relationships problems are happening, or you're not sleeping well, or other things, because you're just in hyper protection. You're still out there. Everything's, looking, everything is looking at it. And especially when you get triggered, what has to happen is that one trigger is all the thousands of other people or events that's triggering. That's that representation. And what we found out, that trigger is in you. And by focusing on that trait within you, you then shift what's on the outside. So one of the things we teach, and it sounds like woo-woo, but it's not, we see this consistently, is that everything outside of you is you. So the person you can't stand that's in your life is you. They're just showing up to show a part of you that you're not dealing with. That's why you're pissed off at them. Like, there's no way,
Sure.
they're showing up. How dare you show up and show a part of me that I'm not wanting to focus on? And when we show this with people and they start using their antidote and things like that, 2 things happen. That person goes away, or they change because they still want to be in your world. So when they have those episodes, one of the things is that I need to start with me first. The outside world isn't happening to me. It's coming from me, through me, and for me. And when you kind of have that little thought process, you can start slowly seeing how that works and start changing it, and then seeing how that works. Why am I in protection? So one of the work with your audience, write this sentence down. When you go through an episode or anything like that, any type of resistance, you're not in the flow, you're stressed, whatever. Write the sentence, why am I protecting myself at this moment in time? Why am I protecting myself at this moment in time? And what it does, it helps you to neutralize depersonalize it as a point of, this is causing me to protect myself. I'm not a loser. I should be able to do this. I was a colonel and I faced all these people. I should be, no, because you're too close to it. You're too close to it. It's that enemy that you can't see, but it's not an enemy. It's there to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't get rid of this because it'd be stupid to get rid of a protective tree. So you need to learn to dance with it, not to fight it. And as a veteran, you're just taught to fight. And that's where the battle comes into play compared to, how can I dance with this instead? It's a different thought process.
As you were talking, I was thinking through some of the things that people go through, right? When you're dealing with someone with PTSD, for example, and they had a traumatic event or multiple traumatic events, and they have those triggers, and they're in that protection mode, really, right? Their reaction is to protect themselves from that type of trauma. They don't want that type of thing to happen again. Whether it was, an IED blowing up, or it was a car accident, or, it doesn't matter what the trauma was. You experienced it once, and once is enough. It was more than enough to experience those types of things. So you definitely want to protect yourself. But then you're talking about how you're almost in like a bubble. And when you hit the limits of your comfort zone, and you kind of have to push yourself outside of that comfort zone to see the success and get to different levels of success, like it's uncomfortable. And our bodies, as humans, we want comfort. We want to be warm. We want to be safe. We want to be secure. We want to have food. All those things are comfort items. We want to be loved and all this kind of stuff. So we're going to gravitate more towards the things that are comfortable. And when things get uncomfortable, we're going to shy away from those types of things. So again, like, it's a protective mechanism. You don't want to be too uncomfortable. But sometimes pushing through that and figuring out how to get through that is a way to, get past those issues and get to a successful place, right?
Yeah, it gives you the ability to say, I have control, because you'll feel that you are in control.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. Let me get that right out. I'm not trying to be one. Mm-hmm. We had a veteran, 12-year 5 tour, take the course. And one of the things the first week he found his inborn sabotage and trait antidote. I said, take this antidote and give it to your therapist. Okay? Use this, because it's going to come down to the core. Within 4 to 5 weeks, tremendous changes with that. And he actually found out why he went to war. Something happened at 5 years old. It was one of the first veterans I had with PTSD. I was just blown away. I was so excited for him and how quickly it happened. So when people learn this, take it to the therapist, go down to that deep part of you. So one of the analogies I love to give, excuse me, is, you ever see the domino masters? They push this one domino, it goes, right?
Sure.
Balloons are the last thing that gets released. What's the last thing you see? Balloons.
The balloons, right?
So the balloons is your imposter syndrome, your anxiety, your stress, your depression, your everything that you see last. So what do? You take our coping methods, where? Put them on the balloons, not the one domino that caused it. What's easier, pull down all the balloons and stop pushing the damn domino. That domino is your inborn sabotaging trait that causes every negative emotion that you experience. And we prove that. So when you push when you push down that protection mode, the saboteur, you immediately go into frustration and desperation. But when you use the antidote, which is the exact opposite, you have to go down to growth, inspiration, and motivation. 100% guaranteed, it never fails because you're using the opposite to that. And that's really empowerment. The goal is to use your antidote more subconsciously than you've been using your saboteur more consciously. So I don't care. Go into the corner with a pillow and suck your thumb in a fetal position, laying on the floor. I'm good with that. They're like, what do you mean? That's not right. I said, no, that's just protecting. The problem comes in is how long are you there for?
Sure.
So if you're using your saboteur, fine, you're just protection. The question is, are you now trying that perfection or your imposter syndrome or other things you're now coming out, and now it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, you haven't gone really forward or compared to, yeah, I feel like an imposter. Okay, cool. What are we going to do? Why am I protecting myself? And then if you can get through that faster, now you continue on growth in a smaller way on that aspect. So depending on what's on in your life and how long you've had it for, I've seen people make changes within an hour and a half, and other people took 2-3 months because it was so in the brain, but they didn't realize that what was happening in the past was happening at the exact same time in the present. It's just the same actor, different costume. The
Yeah.
saboteur actually brings all your adversities in to evolve you. I'm going to say that again. It brings those challenges in to evolve you. Because if you think that you're here on earth because to make everything go well, you're not going to do well here. You're here for the adversity. You're here for the contrast. And when you understand that universe, God, or higher power, whatever you call that, even your higher, if you're an atheist, and higher consciousness, the reason it doesn't speak English or Japanese or anything, it speaks experience. So when you have that episode, that experience, someone triggering you, it's trying to show you, one, are you really dealing with this? Are you kind of like pushing it aside? Are you going to the extreme and now you're over trying to kill it and whatever the case be? Or, hey, let's see how we can dance with this and use this as a benefit, not a detriment. So your benefit and detriment are there at the same time. They're just opposite, right? When I evolve, I dissolve. I have to dissolve in order to evolve. And when I evolve, I dissolve. They both happen at the same time. It's like when life, you say, things are falling apart. They're also falling together at the same time. What side do you want to look at? It's up to you what you want to tap in and then show the world.
So when you have a person who's challenged with something, and I've used this example before, think about when you're a kid and you're learning how to ride a bike and you fall off that bike and maybe you skin your knee or your elbow or something, you get a little banged up and bruised and whatever. And it's nothing serious, but it hurts. Right. And that's a challenge. It's not an easy thing to do when you're young and uncoordinated. You're not used to doing all of that stuff. But eventually you get it, right? There's a little bit of persistence that's required there. And a little bit of changing the way you do things, right? Because if you try riding a bike right now, the way that you did the very first time you got on a bike and you fell and you scraped your knee or your elbow or whatever, you're probably going to fall and scrape your knee and elbow again. It's just going to happen that way because it wasn't the right way to do it. You weren't balanced. You weren't doing things the right way. It's not going to work for you. But now, years and years later, after having learned how to do it and maybe even doing it for many years, you know how to do it. And you've changed your internal way of thinking about how do I approach this challenge, getting on a bike and riding, to the point where it's no longer a challenge. Like if I see a bike and I want to go ride a bike, I just get on the bike and I ride it. I don't think of it like, this is going to be tough, right? I just get on it and I do it. Um, and I know that's a very simple example, but I think it's one that a lot of people could probably relate to. Especially parents who've taught their kids how to ride a bike and saw them struggle and knew that they had it in them. It's just, how do we get that out? How do we get it so that they can ride the bike? And it's practice, it's coaching, it's telling them how to do it, and showing them maybe even how to do it, and instilling that confidence in them, and eventually they get it. And the way you're describing it, like that's the analogy that came up in my head. It sounds like it's very similar to that, where we need to just kind of change the way we're approaching this challenge and allow us to utilize other skills that we may have inside of us. We just weren't tapping into them at the time, right?
Evening. That's one of the things I was looking at was, I took Robbins and Rowe and Zig Ziglar, they were all greats, right? And I had their cassette tapes. That's how far back I'm going. And, I was listening to them and I was still not being successful at times. I'm like, what's wrong with me?
Mm.
And what was realized was that all that information, though genius, was all general. It wasn't specific to who I was, right? And I was using all that information on my with my superpower in that bridge I talked about, like in the seesaw position,
Sure.
because it was subconsciously easier to use it. And that's why it didn't work that well. And once in a while, that information would hit my antidote, which I would not know that it did. I would be successful, but I couldn't sustain it because I didn't know why it happened. And therefore I would drop down. So I would be like a roller coaster type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand that, so we had a gentleman had a combat injury, and when he first started, he was going to go. He had two opportunities to just go off. Like he had two episodes that he was going to do, and he called me and told me within the first week of just using the antidote, he was able to neutralize it. He's never done that before. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And now he realized was that it was due to his saboteur, him overly giving to other people, not setting boundaries, and feeling that people were taking advantage of him, which was like the same thing as in combat, being attacked, but it's really him saying, come on in, I'll be happy to give to you, and feeling overwhelmed that his brain couldn't handle it and things like that. So now he uses those. Does he have episodes here and there? Well, it's here and there, but it's not as severe, and he's going to be able to control it quicker, and knowing did it again. This is what not like the dumbass.
Sure.
Excuse my language. It's the only thing I can think of. Look, me not doing that. What was it? It was okay. I'm just protecting myself. It happened. No big deal. Give myself some grace, and let's try this again.
Yep.
It's the old timeout, do over.
Mm-hmm.
And you start cracking up. Go, yeah, do them. This helps me a lot, and I hope this will help some of your audience. Is that I went through a lot of stuff. You probably saw my bio. I've gone through a lot of trauma and stuff myself, and all good, because I would never be here talking to you if I didn't, because I would have never discovered what I discovered. Like there's nothing like this in the world, and I have something that no one else has, and I have no regret of all the stuff. One of the things you can help with your past, to help neutralize your past, find the benefit out of it. So what happens is people feel that they have to be forgiven, or others have to forgive themselves, or they want to hear someone they want to hear an apology from somebody. And I'm saying you don't need to ever forgive again. And I know a lot of people like, what are you talking about? If I can find a benefit out of the situation, let's say between myself and somebody else, and I can find the benefit that I actually evolved for them. Why do I need an apology from them? Or why do I need to say sorry? I benefit from it, right?
Yeah.
So when you feel that, it's like, wow, I benefited. Thank you. It's really a thank you for doing this to me, causing problems in my life and all this, because I evolved. You can kind of say thank you to that, or find a gift in it. Can I tell you how many times I used to go, I wonder what gift I'm getting, what gift I'm getting, like 1,000 times, knowing that I'd rather walk into the solution than consistently stay in the problem. And then I realized later, it wasn't what gift I was getting. I already got the gift. I needed to know what gift I got and let it to evolve and show me. So when you go through the experience, you get the gift, or you get the bomb, or you get, shrapnel in you. That's what can I use? And listen to your podcast and other people. You take veterans and now they're, they're motivational speakers, or you taking somebody who's this and now so they've taken this and turned it into a benefit. So now they can ride the wave compared to the wave knocking them over.
Sure. Yeah, and you can't look at it like a cost benefit type thing. Like, oh well, yes, but that costs too much. You have to look at the positive side of it, the benefit, the gift that you were given by getting this, whatever the benefit happened to be. That you're getting from this situation,
and it's not
right?
easy. If I may interrupt,
Right.
is that, guys? This is you're like, well, it's easy for you to say. Yes, it's not. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying it's something. Say it was easy. If it was easy, it'd be too easy, and you'd be bored, right?
Right.
So look at how bored you were if you didn't have this experience. And I'm not trying to look little or lessen what you're going through. You're going through some stuff. You gave, and thank you for your services, everyone. Appreciate that. And I really appreciate that tremendously. That's why I'm here. That's why I became I'm actually a government contractor, because I wanted to help the veterans. We just did an 8-hour workshop for the Army. So that's how I can serve them, because I feel you guys are like crap. But anyway, but I really want to do that. So what I'm saying is it's something. The question is you don't have to make that leap. You don't have to take the hill, right? You can just slowly go over here, dig the foxhole, stay there for a little bit, but not days and months. Get up and try another one and slowly get to it, not where you have to rush it and then get your butt kicked, right? So I hope that I'm giving some good analogies for them to relate to, is that just have grace, give yourself some grace, be patient, not overly patient and not impatient. You're going to find that balance. And that's what we found what the antidote does. It brings you to balance from the extremes.
Yeah, and I like the analogy that you gave with taking that hill, and you don't have to charge the hill and take it all at once. You can dig that foxhole, and you can sit there, take a pause, and maybe reflect on what's going on, collect your thoughts, reassess the situation, because things change all the time, right? Okay, we have new pieces of information coming in. What's the good stuff that we can take away from that, and how do we continue with this new information and with this new outlook maybe on the situation, and then we move to the next spot and we dig another foxhole. And okay, we got new information now, and we continue and we do that until we finally take that hill. And that's what success looks like. It's not rushing the hill and taking it immediately. It's not an Amazon delivery that's going to be here, an hour after you place the order.
Where's my package?
Yeah, where's my package? Damn it! It's something that it's going to take time. And I think one of the things that I really hate about social media is we see people who have had success in business, in their life, their careers, whatever it is that they are doing. They post all these successes on there, and it seems like, my gosh, this person came out of nowhere. I never heard of this person before, and all of a sudden they're now successful. Why can't I be successful overnight like this? Well, they weren't successful overnight. You just didn't hear about them because they weren't successful. Nobody cared about them.
They were charging the hill. They were in the foxholes.
Right, exactly.
That same thing with others. It's like, every successful person went through some major stuff. So
yeah,
that's you gotta look at it. That person's there because they chose to pay the price. So that's the question. Write that down, guys. What price are you willing to pay? So this sparked me. Can I give you the 3 reasons that I found?
Yeah, sure.
That fun? Okay. So there are 3 fundamental reasons why we self-sabotage. It depends out. This is really important, guys. The first one is that you had success before and then you lost it. So If that happened, whether it's business
Mm-hmm.
or anywhere, or, you know, a person
But-
broke your heart, right?
Yeah.
What happens is that subconsciously to actually go there again and losing it, the loss is more painful. So you never get to that point, right? That's
Yeah.
why people settle for different relationships and things like that, because they don't want to get the heart broken or
Sure.
whatever. I was very successful in the army, and then now I come out to civilian life and I suck. No, you don't. You're just not applying in a way of that end of it, right? So, and you're not a failure. Here's the thing. You know, I want to go to the other two, but I want to
Yeah.
bring
Sure.
this. I think it's very important. Is that I used to be a wise ass, and especially as a doctor. That's how I used to teach. So I had a patient one time. I used this, and the reason why I remember this was the first time I used this on somebody. She was a diabetic. She said, I'm a failure. I'm a diabetic. I have back pain. I'm tired. I'm overweight. All these symptoms. And I looked at her and I said, okay. I said, congratulations. You are very successful. And you're like, how am I? I'm a failure. No, you're a very successful diabetic. You're successful at being tired, back pain. You know how to do all that. How successful have you been? She just looked at me and I said, now it's time to reverse engineer that and let's shift and go back the other way. So failure and success happen at the exact same time.
Sure.
Which side do you want to look at? So if you're not you were successful in the army, but now you're not successful in civilian life. Yeah, you're successful because what you're not doing, you're in that protective mode. To stay in that protective mode because it's more painful to bring yourself out based on whatever your therapist and the doctor is telling you to do, right? Compared to opening up and surrendering. You know, surrendering is not surrendering in a veteran is like I lost. No,
Yep.
surrendering is you're opening up and allowing what's inside to come out, right? Does a flower open up and after a few minutes, no bees, it close up, go, you know what? I should have been blue. I got bred, should have been blue, or I should have been on that location because there's a lot of bees over there. No, it
Sure.
just opens up and it becomes vulnerable. Write this down, guys. Vulnerability creates credibility.
Excellent.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, listen, this and that. And you want to know what I went through, right? You want to talk to a therapist, has no idea, who's been in war or anything like that, and is book smart, or you want to speak to a therapist who was a veteran.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
same thing. So by you opening up and being vulnerable, you're letting it out. It's like the vulnerability is early spring where when we have winter, we have this ice. Well, what has to heat up. Well, when it heats up, what happened? It melts. So the ice surrenders the water in order for the water to now nourish the foliage.
Sure. Okay.
Look at surrendering is I got to open up and look. And I'm not saying open up because your brain's going, what do you have in mind? Open up a little bit, 10% a day, a little bit more till you're comfortable. And then it's like the frog in the, heating up, boiling. But the opposite way of just opening up a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two is that you're sidestepping what's necessary. You're not doing what's necessary to get to that point. I mean, I got to listen to these podcasts. I got to go and maybe read a book or take a course or do this or you go back to school. You know what? There's a great Netflix series coming out. I'm going to binge watch that and then I'll get back.
Right.
So what happens is you sabotage yourself getting that point because it's more painful to get to that point than not.
Yeah, it's much easier to binge watch the Netflix series than it is to go to school.
Still, maybe your
take the
spouse is now
classes, right?
screaming at you, or now you're going to be foreclosed, and now you get your ass moving because the pain is less, right?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is showing you how to start moving it and not wait for the universe to come in and smack you in the head, going, okay, let's get this going. Let you do it first in order for that pain to be less. Let's make. The third one is more success equals more pain. So the analogy would be like in business where someone and the veterans here that are most likely in business, you ever have a really great month and the next month it sucked? Why?
Hmm.
Because it was so overwhelming. Maybe you didn't have enough automation, you don't have enough staff, or whatever the case may be. Now you're never going to see your children, or now you're so overwhelmed you can't supply and
Yep.
serve people the way you want them. So the next month you drop it down. So looking at your life, where was I successful? And then again, it was more painful as things started to happen. Maybe you're opening up and people are coming to you and you're like, too many people are loving me or too many people are
Hmm.
trying to support me. And now it's like, whoa, right? That's success, right? And that too much could be overwhelming. And again, you're looking at that as what? They're enemies compared to people that are here to support you. I don't need support. That's weakness. No, weakness is not having the support, right? So, guys and ladies, what kind of general would you want? You're going after a hill. You want the general to go, I never retreat. Just go and let's see what happens. Or are you okay with just going, you know what? Things changed. You need to retreat.
Sure.
Which one do you want? The question is what general inside of you are you having? So
Yeah, because
retreat is
you're
not
the
weakness,
general
it's
of
smart.
yourself, right?
Yeah. You're the one who is going, I don't retreat. That's weakness. No, that's that's insanity,
Sure.
right? You have to contract. It's like saying, my heart, when it contracts, that's weak. I just want to keep on expanding. Well, guess what? You're dead if it
Hmm.
only it only expands, and you're dead if it only contracts, right?
Yeah.
It's finding the contraction and the expansion in a rhythmical way, and that's what you have to look at is moving forward and going back a little bit, moving forward, so you're comfortable in that aspect. I hope
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it's almost like that seesaw that you're talking about before, right? Where yeah, you're going to have to go up and you're going to have to go down, and you're going to have to go up and you're going to have to go down, and it's going to repeat that
Yeah,
way.
and
And
your superpower actually causes you to trips up your saboteur,
hmm.
right? So they find out that damage that's your superpower, but by using the antidote, your superpower then becomes more effective,
Yeah,
and now you can move forward in much more confidence.
yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Um, when people I'm just looking through the list of the reasons that people will self sabotage. When people had success and lost it, maybe they had a great job and then they got fired or laid off or whatever. Or, obviously I can't be good enough for that type of job anymore. So I'm not going to be able to achieve anything greater than that. Obviously, because I got laid off from that job, or they were in a great relationship and then they lost it. Well, obviously, I'm unlovable. Nobody's going to ever love me, right? Because, I had something great and, I can't imagine anything better than that. And, but, obviously these things are not true. If you stop and look at somebody else, I think sometimes it's easier to be able to diagnose this or visualize this in somebody else. If you had a friend come to you and be like, I was in this great relationship and she left me and all this stuff, and obviously I'm never gonna find anybody. It's like, dude, really?
And 8 billion people, you're not finding anybody.
You're not gonna find anybody. There's plenty of people on this earth. You'll find somebody. Um, exactly, and uh, the, that's kind of the way the thought process would go when you're talking to somebody else. But when we're thinking about ourselves, I mean, we have that dumb general who is like, just doesn't know how to do things, and that's the guy who's running the show when it comes to us, and we need to get that general in shape and get him moving in the right direction. And sometimes that direction is to retreat, right? Because if you're going to go and take that hill and it's you taking that hill and there's 1,000 people up on top of that hill, guess what? You ain't going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So at some point, you might have to realize, okay, I might have to retreat, regroup, like we were talking about before, dig that foxhole, regroup, figure out what you need to do, call in support, whatever it is that you need to do, and then go try to take that hill. New information may come in. Maybe they got 5,000 people now and you need some more. So, okay, fine. I need more support than I thought I needed. All right, well, let's stop. Let's retreat a little bit and continue, right?
Yeah, and that's what we talk about. Who the heck knows what happened when they were in the military, right?
Yeah.
Could have been a captain that made a bad decision. Maybe he lost a couple of guys, right? Or she lost a couple of guys, right? Now they're like, well, now they go into personal. Now they're still thinking about that. So the question is, okay, yeah, all right, Agrios, how do you make that a benefit? Well, there is a benefit out of it. I'm not saying I can find it, but I usually find a benefit out of anything. But there's a benefit for you. Maybe now it gives you an idea. Oh, maybe I need to do this, or maybe not be so whatever. I don't know. I don't want to give
Right.
examples. So if that's whatever happened there, by finding the benefit, there's no need to forgive yourself and going, I'm now going into civilian life a different person, not a better person. See, when you go in, I need to do better. I need to be smarter. I need to, you know what I'm saying? That means you're going up a hill. And if I stop, what happens? I
Slide
lose,
back.
right?
Yeah.
I want you to focus on being different. When you're going down the road that things are not going well for self-sabotage, what are you going to do? Well, make a little left. Go down the other road. So it's being different so much easier than trying to get better out of it. So what was the benefit of going into the military? So here's another great, a lot of stuff coming to. I hope I'm not giving too much.
No, you're good. You're good.
Write this down, guys, is this. If I never went into the military, what would I have lost? If I never went into the military, what would I have lost? It's a brain teaser. Like, instead of like, what did I gain? What did I lose? I would have lost being a better leader or a different leader. See how
Sure.
I found that I would be a different leader. I would not be as confident. I would have not had that experience. I would have never seen the world. I don't know, whatever the case may be. And now you start seeing it. And then you can then take it even deeper, right? What would I have lost if I still had my leg or my arm, or if I didn't have the PTSD or something? And again, using this with your therapist, okay? Or by yourself. But again, it's a different thought. Finding the benefit out of that and then going, okay, how can I now use this benefit differently in order to move forward and not only impact my life, but impact others?
Sure.
And if you're looking at only impacting you, that's where the problem comes into play, is because how can I take this and impact other people's lives? There's a benefit here, guys. And then just guys, right? So in that end of it, I want to make sure that they're understanding that what is the impact? What is your purpose? Well, my purpose used to be this, and I have no purpose. Well, right now your purpose is feeling sorry for yourself, and that's okay. It's okay. It's not bad. You're just in protection. I saw I don't know, you watched Arnold Schwarzenegger's documentary, right? Unbelievable. And when he lost that big thing, he cried all night. And he woke up and goes, okay, you cried, baby. You done? And he just went on, right? That's what I think, right? And so it's okay. If you're feeling bad, it's okay. Just write that down, guys. It's okay where you are. You are where you are because that's where you need to be at this moment in order to receive what you need to move forward and impact not only yourself, but others. I hope that is valuable.
Yeah, I think so. And when you look at someone like that who is on top of their game and they still lose, Michael Jordan, someone like that, there have been games that Michael Jordan was in that he lost, right? And there's been shots that he's taken that he's missed. And as great as he was, in basketball, he still made mistakes. And so it's like, okay, well, what do I do with this now? What caused this to happen? How do I work on improving that so that or changing the conditions so that that doesn't happen again. What lessons can I learn from that? And to your point, yeah, sure, losing a game, that it's not the end of the world, but it's, that's your job, is to go out there and win games. So it's not great for you. But what do you learn from that loss, from that missed shot, right? That's the mindset that you're talking about here, where you have to say, okay, because I missed that shot, now I'm gonna go practice that shot 1,000 times until I can't miss it. And now I'm gonna be the guy on the team who can't miss that shot. Everybody's gonna know they can rely on me to get that shot every single time. And that's something I've gained. So yeah, sure, I lost a game. Sucks. Dust yourself off, cry, wipe your tears away, whatever you got to do. But then go and do something about it, and improve yourself so that it doesn't happen again. Right? I think that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. And who's your mentor? If you feel you can do, you got to do this on your own, then you've already lost, in my opinion.
Sure.
Okay. Every successful person you meet, they've had mentors.
Yeah.
Jordan
Yeah.
had coaches. I don't know how many coaches he's had.
Sure.
He was pretty good, right? Look at all the people who were successful. They've had mentors.
Mm-hmm.
So looking for, I want to be there. Well, who's been there, and who can I go emulate to help me do that? Hire them, or maybe see them on YouTube or whatever
Mm-hmm.
the case may be, and just do what they do. And knowing that they had to pay the price, just as you. There's no such thing as a success without paying the price.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Right.
have to be, in a lot of terms, we feel, we got to pay out a big price. And sometimes you don't, but you actually put the major price on. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
going, how much is that? It's $10. Okay, here's $100. Why are you giving me $100? Oh, I can't take this for 10. Here's 100. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Take it for $10, right? It's because you're valuable enough to take it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Stop punishing yourself. You're not being punished. God's not punishing you. You're not. You're basically punishing yourself based on a story that you're telling yourself that could be true or not true, but it's up to you how you want to spin that to take responsibility. If you've
Yeah.
screwed up, I screwed up. Okay, now what?
Right.
Okay. As soon as you acknowledge something, you take control. You don't acknowledge anything, you can't take control and take responsibility. But once you acknowledge, okay, this happened, now what? Okay. How can I use this to help other people? I've screwed up tremendously.
Yeah.
And I'll be, a lot of times in the shower, and I'll think of some, say like, what the hell was I thinking? And then, you know what I do? Immediately go, I love you, man. Those
I think
4 words, I love you, man, just tells me subconsciously, it's okay. You're okay. You've grown from it, and let's move on. And I can release that quicker compared to just now obsessing over it and now making my day or my week horrible because I thought about something that I did was stupid.
Right. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, that's something that happens all the time, where it's like, I could think about something I did 30 years ago and be like, oh my God, that was stupid. But who cares? Right. Like, it happened. It's done. It's over. It has no impact on anything. The person who was with me at the time, who, the situation might have been about, they probably don't even remember it. It's one of those things where it's like, it's in my head. Why? What purpose is it serving? And let's let it go and move on and
I love you.
figure out.
Just say,
Yeah,
I love you, and it's okay. Just say, it's okay, and
it's
just move
okay.
forward.
Yeah, it's okay. Not a big deal. Life goes on. It's not like the end of the world. That I said that stupid thing when I was 13 years old or something.
And I
Like,
was very successful being stupid back then.
right. And I think we all were. We all had a lot of success with being stupid when we were teenagers.
Exactly.
And
And even yesterday.
yeah, sure. And I'm not immune to that either. We all have that, right? And I think it's just important to realize that we can make those changes in the way that we think, in the way that we act, in the way that we do things, so that success will come to us, right? Yes, you're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna have things that don't go your way. If a lot of the listeners are probably familiar with the Jocko Willink Jocko podcast, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he talks about
Yep.
extreme ownership, and he talks about like you have to, uh, just yeah, this thing happened. Okay, good. It happened. What do we do with this? What do we do with this information? How do we move on from here? How do we get better? How do we do things in a different way to achieve that success? And with that mindset, he's been very successful. And I think a lot of people would follow in his footsteps and be very successful as well if they had that type of mindset. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Is really just that kind of small change. Yeah, we're gonna have those thoughts creep in. We're gonna have a setback, a business issue, your career, your relationships. There's gonna be arguments. There's gonna be disagreements, whatever. These things happen. It's just what do you do with it, and how do you move forward? Um, yeah, sure, you might have to sit there and plan and gather resources, or make some changes. Um, but okay, good. You've made those changes. Now you're a better person. Now your way you're approaching it is a better way, and you're gonna now achieve that type of success, right? So I think this is such a good topic. I know so many people out there are probably dealing with all sorts of stuff, whether it's self doubt, or that imposter syndrome, or just being down on themselves because of something that may have happened, that story that they make up and put in their head. It just keeps them down. Um, Honestly, talking to you, it's like there is a better way. I've dealt with this. Other people have dealt with it. Right? There is a better way to deal with this, and so I want to make sure before we wrap up here, I want to make sure that the audience knows where they can go to reach out and find out how they can apply this to their own lives. I know we didn't give specific examples of how to do that. So I sort of intentionally did that because I want people to be able to reach out to you and find out how you work and how you operate, and how they might be able to work with you. But where can people go to find out more about you and for more information or to get some help?
Yeah. So we have a membership site for the majority of people, and it's called the TNowMethod.com, the TNowMethod.com. When you go there, depending when you might be on a waiting list, or you might have it open. You take a little course. You can actually get your inborn sabotage trait antidote, and then every week we give you how your sabotaging antidote can help you in your professional life, in your health, and your personal relationships, things like that.
Sure.
And then I get on live once a month, and you can ask me questions as well. Um, and or social media. I'm on all of them,
Mm-hmm.
and if they have questions there, or they can go to my website, transcendnow.biz. It's transcendnow.biz. Assuming they'll be underneath the
Yep.
in the podcast, and you know, we have different programs for different people, and we'd love to have a conversation or whatever the case may be to see if this can help. But
Sure.
yeah, start out slow with membership, and then inside we show you how you can move forward.
Wonderful. And yeah, like you said, I will have links to all of that in the show notes for folks to check out. Not only your social media, but also the other websites that you mentioned. And that way people can get the information that they need. They can reach out to you, follow you on social media, and see the live events that you do, and all that type of stuff, so that they can get the help that they need, and hopefully help that self-sabotage, that voice in their head that just keeps them
Is
from achieving the success that they can, achieving their full potential. But Before we wrap up, I do want to thank you for coming on the show and for the work that you're doing, because I think it is an important thing that people need to know about. And the more people out there who are getting this type of help, the more successful people we'll have in this world, and that's just going to benefit everybody. So thank you again for
Thank
taking the
you.
time to come on.
Thank you. It was an honor, and I'm hopefully that something, you at least take one thing I said that can help you tomorrow or right now to just move a little bit more than 1, 2 steps ahead
Hmm.
and feeling empowered.
Absolutely. Thanks again.